Party Dog Squad, hello and welcome to your 4th annual Farm Aid episode. Every year I attend Farm Aid and year after year I get more all up in the mix. This year had to be my favorite, which is saying a lot because you always want things to be better than they were, right? Maybe you don't know what Farm Aid is, so I'll tell you. In 1985, Willie Nelson started a benefit concert to support farmers across America. Spoiler alert, factory and corporate farms are no good. They're abusing the animals, spraying our foods with pesticides, and also they have all these cancer-causing chemicals that are going on our food. And the bottom line is the American farmer needs help. It's important to try to be more conscious of where your food is coming from. And I say that knowing my privilege, the time I have to make those choices, the resources I have to make more conscious efforts to know what I am putting in my body, and also where it comes from most of the time. Not everyone has the time, not everyone has the money, the bandwidth, or frankly, most people would prefer to live in Denial Lane. And Denial Lane is a street in Springfield. La 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 la, if I don't know about all the bad stuff in my food, then the bad stuff in my food can't hurt me. So there. Wrong as a broke bong. If you do have the ability to care a little bit more about what you're consuming, you're only doing your future self a favor. This year's Farm Aid took place in Saratoga Springs, New York. Have you been? Because it's beautiful. And the venue was in this, I don't know, I guess it wasn't a national park. That's an outrageous thing for me to say. But what's bigger than a town square and smaller than a national park, but also is like full of trails and walking paths and trees and a music venue and a ravine and a coffee shop and a spa? No, I'm asking you. When you think of what it is, you let me know. And in the meantime, oh my God, these trees. These trees in this park leading up to the venue were gorgeous. I tell you, gorgeous. I just wanted to have a conversation with them. They were giving Narnia, but they were also giving trees in Nightmare Before Christmas, the ones that have all the holidays on them. Either way, trippy. We had to do some driving around, pick up some flowers, run some errands. And this lake that we were driving by in Saratoga Springs, it was so peaceful. And this is 2 episodes in a row that I've brought up lakes. Maybe I want a lakeside property. Seems tamer than an ocean, but grosser than a pool. All I could think was, God, I want to be floating on this beautiful lake on this beautiful day, listening to beautiful music while I get beautifully stoned. But I couldn't, because I had nothing to float on. And there was work to be done. We had to get the flowers for an event happening later that evening. The event was celebrating farmers, so all the farmers pulled up. It was in this greenhouse-looking event space on this farm, very appropriate for a scary movie or a Nancy Meyers movie. A very versatile landscape. I'm sitting outside during the event, eating this plate of homegrown food when I got interviewed by the one and only, you guessed it, Lancaster Farming newspaper. Can y'all believe I have time to do this podcast with my new fame and fortune? Shout out to the Lancaster Farming Press. I loved watching the piece. You might be thinking, what does wild nights have to do with farming? Farmers need sleep. Farmers need tame nights. Well, I'm the plug between the degenerates and the farming community. It's called United States, people, not united. Pick up a newspaper. Marie Kondo did not pay me to say this, but her show changed my folding clothes game years ago. And I want to offer you a life hack if, and only if, you're able to implement it. If you aren't, then just go on about your business and ignore this. I'm not better than you because I'm a good packer. If you learn how to fold like Marie Kondo, then you can pack your suitcase when you travel like Marie Kondo. Then you can neatly transfer your clothing into the drawer of where you're staying so you can see everything you packed. Then when you're ending your day, you can Marie Kondo fold it back up and put those 2 or 3 items of clothing that you wore throughout your day and that you're done with in your suitcase. So by the time you leave, your clothes aren't everywhere. And you have room to keep anything you didn't wear neatly packed in your suitcase. If this method helps one person, it's worth it, because packing this way has ultimately made traveling feel so good. And guess what? You're able to get more wild and loose if you know your belongings are organized. These are Kim Kardashian level gems I'm showering you with. I want to know if I was to New York City in this upcoming moment. Here's the moment. I go downstairs. Our hotel had this weird ringing coming from the bathroom. It would stop, and you couldn't hear it if the door was closed, but it was making me a little nuts. And I listen to the sounds of the city on the daily. It's like white noise. But this was annoying. So I go downstairs to have an herbal refreshments and listen to some music while the night weather was on my side. And I was present. I wasn't scrolling. I was looking at the beautiful views of this hotel parking lot and all it had to offer. And it was just all cars. Just the trunks and asses of cars, which this is a fun new way to look at honking. But what if cars have a mind of their own? And every time a car honks at you while you're driving, it's kind of like that car is telling you your car has a nice butt. It's all about perspective, people. Anyways, I'm zoinked out of my mind looking at all these car butts. And I see that one has their back door open. And it was wide the fuck open. And I keep watching for signs of life. Nothing. Another 5 minutes go by and I'm like, am I bugging or is this back door open with no one in sight? The driver just on cloud 9 when they walked away? Then I triple checked with a neck adjust and I wiped down my peepers. And the door was really as open as it could be at 10 o'clock at night. Now, I could have walked over and closed it. I could go inside, tell them at the front desk, 954 TXY, a white Jeep has its door all the way open. Or I could mind my goddamn business. Why do I need to get involved in someone's lesson? I walk over and end up getting shoved in the back seat of that bitch like it's a Diddy party? I'm too cute and kidnappable to be closing doors that don't belong to me. Friday at Farm Aid was go, go, go. I was PAing for the ultimate best, same as last year, but for some reason, this year felt more energetic. I didn't learn as much about farming and the farming crisis as I had last year when I sat in on this big conference, but I did do a whole episode on that. This year, we were up in the mix. We had our fearless leader, the director, a camera woman, a boom operator, a golf cart, and a dream. And the dream was to focus on the people that are the heartbeat of Farm Aid, the volunteers. Why they volunteer, what made them start volunteering, what made them come back to volunteer, what they've learned through the years and where they're from. Some of these interviews were so beautiful and heartfelt. It's crazy because I consider myself very Northeast, and I'm proud of that. I love my people, I love our attitude, I love our culture. But because divisiveness is ultimately what allows people in power positions to remain in power, sometimes our outlook on other Americans who are culturally different or live somewhere different doesn't always skew positive. So it's nice to know that there are kind people living not so fast-paced life who are content and happy just to be a helper where they're needed. It's fulfilling. What an absolute privilege it was to hear their stories. And later in the day, I got to attend another fantastic Farm Aid themed event. And this guy gets online with me. He's chatty. Older man. I wasn't shutting the convo down. He had a full head of hair. I'm sure that full head of hair has flown through the breeze of his bright red Lambo that he just bought. And he wasn't wearing a ring. I'm not above being a syrup toddler. Notice I didn't say sugar baby. I'm a little too jaded, and by jaded I mean a little too in my 30s to be a sugar baby. But I'm not close to being above a syrup toddler. So I indulge him. As he's talking to me, he's got the blue cheese tongs for his salad right in his hand. And that blue cheese was being a bit stubborn. It wasn't coming off. It was not coming off the tongs, and that's okay, bud. I'm sure you can go without blue cheese. But nah. He put his whole finger on the tongs, and he pushed that blue cheese off of it his goddamn self. Gross. Guess I'll have to find the feta, because I sure as shit wasn't touching that blue cheese. Then he points to a bowl of this brown crumble, and he asks me what it is, as if I wasn't behind him in line. As if I put the bowl out myself. As if it was the secret to an old family recipe that I was hiding from him. I think it's bacon bits. And yes, he did. He did, y'all. He did go into that little bowl of bacon bits with his paws first and pick out a piece. What are we doing, sir? You gotta be 74 plus 11 years old. Have you no decency? And I know he's not the only one going through buffet-style lines like that. You are not the exception, and your hands aren't cleaner. You don't get a pass. Why do we not care about our fellow person? Saturday was easily one of the most unforgettable days of my life, and I say that a lot because I do be out here having unforgettable days of my life. And if you feel like you have days that shouldn't be forgotten, maybe start a podcast of your own, dear. Saturday was the actual concert, and our team was not supposed to be in the mix of the artists. But some things had gotten changed around, so we were, in fact, in the mix of the artists, and it was everything I could have wanted. I'm on stage, walking past Neil Young's equipment and guitars, and you see tape on equipment that says Willie Nelson and John Mellencamp on it. There's a bunch of stagehands making sure every I is dotted and being just so friendly. It was time for the sound check, and our crew was at the sound check. We're getting footage, baby. Then Dave Matthews takes the stage to an empty audience to do his sound check. And where am I? I'm front row center having my own private Dave Matthews concert. Broad daylight, just singing right to me. Now I could say that for you, for the purpose of my memory. Yes, he was singing right to me. For the integrity of the story, he was professionally doing his sound check. When I went backstage again, I casually walked past Brother Jones. You know Brother Jones. Justin Jones, state representative for Tennessee. Young, fights the power. He's a good guy. Look into him if you're unfamiliar. Then we got the news. Our team was going to Dave Matthews' tour bus to interview him. Honestly, good fucking Saturday, dog. First, a private concert. Now, I'm all up in the tour bus? You cannot pick how your day is going to go, folks, but might I suggest you go with the flow and follow the fun. The interview was happening right after Dave Matthews, Willie Nelson, John Mellencamp, Neil Young, and Margot Price did their afternoon panel for everyone. On that panel, they talked to some local lifetime farmers, and they kind of talk about the urgency of getting them the help and the resources they need before corporate factory farming takes us all down. The panel also acknowledged some of the artists that would be performing later in the evening. And I just got to tell you about this musician, Charlie Crockett. When they called his name and he stood up from the audience, I was like, oh, hello, cowboy. I hadn't heard any of his music yet, but my interest was piqued. So more on Charlie Crockett later. Now the panel ends, and there's a bunch of excitement backstage. I'm right there. I'm backstage. I'm waiting for my team so we can hop on the Dave Matthews tour bus. Not a sentence I thought I'd be saying when I woke up that day. First, I was 3 feet away from a golf cart that Willie Nelson was escorted away from backstage on. Then John Mellencamp just strutted by me like he's the fucking guy that wrote Jack and Diane. What? He is the guy that wrote Jack and Diane? Sure. Fine, he can strut past me, I guess. Then Neil Young walked past me, and next thing you know, I'm in a whirlwind backstage of all this chaos and cameras and guitars. All the artists are signing guitars. And I'm just standing there with my clipboard like, fuck yeah, bro. I'm outside rocking with the legends. You can take my clothes. You can take my shoes. You can imitate, emulate, or impersonate me. But you can never take that moment away. Or the next one, because the next one, our little squad of 4 followed Dave Matthews on his bus for the interview. And I learned so much from Susan, who was asking the questions. I learned from her as an interviewer and as a journalist. She is so skilled beyond measure. And she was just relaxed. She got the best responses from Dave Matthews. And how do I know that? Because I left that bus having learned something about him. How does the day get better? It did. Don't worry. But for a brief second in time, one might think that's the high of the day. Nah, kid, it really just kept peaking. My family, moms, aunts, cousin, they were all coming to watch the show. If you're a member of the Party God Squad, you know that this apple didn't fall far from the tree, and the gals like to rock out. So there was no way they were missing Farm Aid. Plus, they love the cause. There's still work to be done, however, on the production side. I can't party with the fam just yet. We gotta go interview more volunteers and farmers. One farmer we interviewed, Will Delacamera, he drove his own tractor from Connecticut to Washington, D.C. in protest of the lack of support when it comes to crop assistance and disaster insurance in farming. Yeah, that's a thing. And yes, he drove his tractor from CT to DC, my G. That is such an act of dedication. And look at you. You can't even clean the spoon in the sink. Before my day with the production crew ended and I could switch into party time, there was a moment. Yes, a moment. I'm backstage making a phone call pertinent to the job at hand, and there he was coming off his tour bus. None other than Lucas Nelson himself, and he was in fact a cowboy. Y'all, these country artists dead-ass dress like cowboys. And then I spend 11 months out of the year pretending I don't fuck with cowboys. Only to roll up to Farm Aid, ready to boot, scoot, and boogie, baby. Lucas Nelson walks out of his tour bus and is making a beeline to me. Well, he was making a beeline to the entrance to backstage that I pseudo was standing in front of. And we did, in fact, lock eyes through my AVs. And it was, in fact, a Texas flood in Saratoga Springs if you're quick on the uptake. After that, it was time to tip my hat and call this assignment, well, one for the books, because it was unforgettable. In fact, if I say yes to Lucas Nelson's future marriage proposal, then you can play him this clip. I do, cowboy. I reckon I do. First things first, now that I've pivoted to concert mode, I gotta find my family. They have lawn seats, so I'm gonna go directly to them, but first, the loo. The ladies' room has 2 lines. Both lines are pretty evenly matched, but something feels off about the line I'm standing in. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't like it. The energy is just all out of whack. So if the energy is off, I'm out ski, even if it's a bathroom line. Great thing I did too, because none other than my own aunt, my own flesh and blood, is the person I stand behind in the second line. Another example of trusting your gut and following your energy. Of all the gin joints, the combination of women in that venue, plus timing, there was probably a 1 in a million chance that me and my aunt would end up in line together. A word to the wise. If you're ever in the Saratoga Springs Performing Arts Center and you decide you want to get lawn seats, get there early. Bring chairs. And if you don't get there early, expect to have obstructed view on a hill that is not grassy, but instead built on steep dirt. That's where my family was sitting. As the concert went on, we moved, and my mom is the one who spearheaded the move. She doesn't want to be at a concert where you have to watch the entire thing from a jumbotron. Neither do I, lady. And it was more than fine when we moved. We were up, we were dancing, we could see the stage a little bit more. It was pure joy. You know that song, The Wait, by the band, literally? Funny title for a song where they sing the word load in 8 different keys, but never once say wait. Anyway, Dave Matthews, Nathaniel Ratliff, and Lucas and Micah Nelson came out to sing it. They all sang it together, and it felt like the combo that no one knew they needed, but once we had it, we were like, delicious. Later on, I was gifted a seat inside the venue with some of my Farm Aid crew. Thank you, Cindy. So after watching John Mellencamp with my family, I go inside to watch Neil Young. I've just never given this guy a chance. I don't know. I missed the memo. But now I'm sold. I'm as on board as they come when it comes to Neil Young. There were so many moments where I was watching him and I would just go into a full trance. And only when the song ended would I snap out of it. And I know what you're thinking. And yes, of course I was. But that's not what made me a Neil Young fan, you guys. Don't be surprised if I'm hosting something and on the playlist Neil Young's in the rotation, baby. I'd say he earned his spot. And when he ended, I knew I had to get back to my family quick because Willie Nelson and Lucas Nelson and Micah Nelson, they were going to be starting any minute. But now I got to navigate how I'm going to hit the loo and not miss Lucas Nelson sing Texas Flood, which he sings every year. And I know there are people that are coming alive while he belts that out, if you catch my drift. Boners. Lady and non-lady. The metaphorical boners are boning when he sings this song. And when I'm at a concert, I cannot feel like I have to pee. I cannot. I won't be able to think about anything else, so I make a beeline for the bathroom. Which you're hearing a lot about this episode. But there's gonna be a lot of bathroom breaks in an all-day concert, and frankly, something significant was happening every time I entered or exited one of those, so here's the bathroom stories. And this time was no different. I leave the bathroom, and up on all the jumbotrons is Lucas Nelson singing, you guessed it, Texas Flood. So now I'm running through the venue, trying not to slip on my own snail trail while attempting to find my family and missing the song, my song. When I got to my family, I still had enough time to lean against a pole like I've never been touched by a man before and drool. And the drool dangled out of the corners of my mouth, deciding its next move, so we're killing it, baby. The venue starts to clear out. I don't know why anyone would leave when 91-year-old legend Willie Nelson is on stage absolutely crushing it, but this was great for us because we moved down, we got some lawn seats and chairs, and we had some good vibes. Willie Nelson sang this song called Last Leaf on the Tree, which he didn't write, but it sounded like he did, and it was a metaphor for outliving everyone you've come up with in life. Really existential, man. In conclusion, I'll never forget that night or this farm aid. When we got back to the hotel, it was just this feeling of wanting to be in the bed, accomplished and chilling and eating and passing out. But there's that ringing again. And it's louder and it's longer and it's coming from the shower. Everyone who was involved in farm aid was down in the lobby partying. And there was one hotel employee working for the entire hotel. This wasn't a Motel 6. This wasn't some divey little hotel. This was a huge hotel. And the poor sap is running the whole thing by himself. And the ringing just keeps getting louder and louder. Finally, after 15 minutes, he comes upstairs and he attempts to fix it, but he can't. Because he's probably never been trained to do that. And then he calls the maintenance man 6 times, and the maintenance man doesn't answer. Corporate hotels that are completely sold out and getting upwards of $300 a night per room, may I offer you a strategy? Perhaps invest in giving a room to an on-site maintenance man. Maybe with all that flushed cash you got, you could have somebody on site if there's a problem. Because what if there was a real problem? That just seems like bad business. So now this kid's got to go make up another room for us, and we had to leave our stuff behind and go sleep there. In the history of the world, this is not a problem. This is not the worst thing by a long shot. But it's just weird to me that a business would charge so much to their customers to stay at their hotel and then yet not set the hotel up for success. In fact, set them up for extreme failure. All at the hands of, well, loads of profit. Something to pay attention to, folks. When the next corporate place you pay to go to is not only understaffed, but underserving you, just pay attention. In the morning, there was still a few things to be done besides doing donuts in a golf cart, my favorite part. As we're spinning around in the golf cart, trying to tie up the loose ends around the venue, we're watching the staff clean up after the night before. It was trashed. It's not very Party God Squad. Broken lawn chairs, now the staff's problem. Beer cans and bottles and cups and napkins everywhere. The venue looked like a garage sale for Oscar the Grouch's family and friends. How could concert attendees who are here to save the American farmer have such disrespect for the land? A mere 12 hours ago, Neil Young had the entire venue chanting, "Love Earth, love Earth." The concert took place on the 21st night of September. If someone treated me the way they treated Mother Earth and had a crushed Bud Light can on top of me and called it love, I'd knock the earth, wind, and fire out of them so they'd never forget dancing in September. No. Peace, peace, peace. I would obviously let karma take care of them, but I wouldn't want to. Do whatever you want to your homes and cars and cubicles, but it really takes a small, uninvolved person to be a litter bug. Sorry to break it to you, but there's good news, and I say this with love. If you are a small, uninvolved litter bug, you can stop today. Wow, Eureka, sick, I love evolving. Charlie Crockett, we put a pin in him. Now you can take that pin out and check out his catalog. I sent his album In the Night to everyone I love, and I am so excited to introduce it to you if this is your intro. Some farm aid sign-offs. Remember, you can look up where your food is coming from, you can try to plan ahead to hit up a farmer's market, and you can be a little gentler with Mother Earth before she swallows you whole one faithful day. That's how you know I've been listening to a lot of country music. I reckon before Mother Earth swallows you whole one day. Thanks, Farm Aid. If you want to have your own Wild Night story retold on Wild Nights, you can email me at wildnightswithrocky@gmail.com. In the meantime, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can follow me at Wild Nights with Rocky on TikTok and Instagram, at Wild Nights Pod on Twitter. If you want to watch the show with your eyes, please subscribe on YouTube. You can also join my Patreon for $2 or $5 a month if you'd like to support the show. A big thank you and a future thank you to everyone who's written and everyone who will write a review on Apple Podcasts when this episode is over. It really does make a difference. And until next time, stay wild. Is it?